This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Friday, August 2nd, 2024, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Clayton Nevins of Pivot Bio as we learn about a resilient nitrogen source throughout the growing season, even during a very wet growing season like we have seen in 2024. But first, let's run down the closing market summary.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, I'm joined by Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Curt, what did we see take place in the grains today?
Well, on the day we finished kind of better. Corn was up 5 cents, beans up 5 to 12 cents, and the wheat market was, hung in there. But the main thing was kind of the outside markets. We saw the Dow down over just about 1,000 points during the day. Crude oil down, hard, $2-3, and just sort of fear out there. A little bit of economic fear, but a little bit of uncertainty going into the weekend, what's going on around the world. So we'll come in here Sunday night, Monday morning, kind of watch this outside market activity. But as a whole, grains was able to stay in there for the second trading day of the month. Maybe we're seeing a little positioning here with some new money, but did see export sales of 202,000 tons of beans to China. Hopefully we'll continue to see that happen. We need to see 1 million metric tons to China, but if they can continue to be a consistent player in here, that would be great news as we can build up a little bit more confidence in this export picture. Outside worries about the labor numbers, economic numbers. We're still kind of worried about weather here, and it seems to be favorable if you're not in the area where you have too much wind or hail. Boy, there in some spots, as you know, we saw some pretty good winds, and there's some areas still without power 2-3 days later after the storms went through there. So we'll watch the weather here locally. We're pretty good shape weather-wise. The good to excellent category is probably going to be unchanged. It's kind of hanging in there. I know most of these analysts are preparing to see maybe a little higher yield number. Some are increasing the corn yield, 1-2 bushels per acre as a nation, and beans maybe up a bushel. We'll get a little closer to the August crop report and see what it has to say. The big thing as we get into mid-August here, we're going to see these crop tours take place, and we'll see what the visual observations are out there as they go through the fields across the entire Midwest. Technical-wise, we're seeing some momentum indicators kind of give us some bullish trend divergences. The momentum indicators are trying to turn up in through here, whereas the market, makes a new low. So maybe we can see a little turn here. But on the week, corn actually finished down about 23 cents from last Friday. Beans down about 20. Wheat was up 14 cents. So we're at an area here where technically we need to draw a line here and make sure we hold, and also make sure we see some demand come, like I mentioned there. The other thing, talking to guys last 2 days, they're hard to get a hold of because it's hard to get cell reception inside of a grain bin. So a lot of cleaning out the bins here in central Illinois, Mark.
Over on the other side of the ag marketplace at midday anyway, it was not pretty for the cattle and hogs, specifically for the cattle. How did the cattle and hogs close up today?
Oh, man, it was just a free for fall. We closed off the lows pretty good there. But on the weekly chart, cattle lost over $6.50. Hogs, not too bad, down $2.70. But if you don't look at our price charts, it's just been a free fall in here. Feeders even work worse. Man, they were just straight down. They were down over 600 points during the day and through here. Was able to climb up out of the hole a little bit. But fundamentally, there wasn't no real big reason. Cutouts and the fundamental picture not justifies the sell-off we had in through here. I mean, longer term, we can see things roll over. Hog-wise, we saw the loin stay there around 98, the hams 106, bellies 153. Starting to see a pickup in belly interest here as we start to see those tomatoes ripen up. Brian Split, our technical analyst, put out a midday little comment there. If you turn on the 5-minute bar chart for the S&P and the cattle futures, they kind of followed each other. The fears about beef demand when there's economic uncertainty. So hopefully we see this stock market stabilize first part next week.
Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net, our guest here at the close on Friday. Curt, what's the best way for our listeners and viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
1-800-779-1515, or else go to agmarket.net.
All right, Curt, thanks so much. We always appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Cool. You too. Take care.
Thank you to Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Let's take a minute now to look at those numbers. The closing numbers can be found anytime on our website under the Markets tab at iowaagnet.com. September corn closes up 4.5 at 386.5. September soybeans up 9 even at 1018 even. September soybean meal up 5.70 at 333.70. September soybean oil down 79 cents at 41.68. Chicago wheat up 7 even at 539 even. Minneapolis wheat up 6.5 at 595 even. Kansas City hard red wheat up 5 1/4 at 559 3/4. September oats up 3 1/4 at 325 3/4. On the Merc, August live cattle down 70 cents at 184.10. August feeder cattle down 350 at 249.65. August lean hogs down 95 cents at 92.20. August pork cutout unchanged at 103 even. Class 3 milk down 11 cents at 20.29. That does it for our closing market coverage for Friday. It is time now to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. And when we come back, I will be joined by Clayton Nevins of Pivot Bio.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
In today's show, I'm joined by Clayton Nevins of Pivot Bio. So we're going to learn about resiliency and the importance of resiliency with your nitrogen throughout the growing season. This is Ag Matters PM. Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Clayton Nevins with Pivot Bio. And Clayton, could you tell us, please, what your role is within the Pivot Bio organization?
Absolutely. So Clayton Nevins, I'm a senior agronomic scientist with Pivot Bio.
And Clayton, when we think about this year, especially here in the state of Iowa, we've been dealing with a lot of extreme weather events. We've been dealing with heavy rainfall at times this season. Of course, certain parts of the state have seen really excessive rainfall when I'm thinking about Northwest Iowa in specific. So when it comes to Pivot Bio, we know that you have an opportunity to use that microbial nitrogen and that ability to have that nitrogen right on seed and the numerous benefits. But what is that resiliency like for Pivot Bio's nitrogen in a season like this where we see such extreme amounts of rainfall?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. It has been such a wet growing season for so many farmers across Iowa and really across the Corn Belt in general. And because it's been such a wet growing season, we have lost a lot of nitrogen from the system or from our soils. And so that reduction in nitrogen really means that we have less nitrogen available for our crops to take it up. So losing nitrogen either through nitrate leaching, when we get heavy rain events, or through denitrification, so losing that nitrogen into the atmosphere. But what we're seeing is that when growers have a diversified nitrogen plan and we're incorporating sources of nitrogen like Pivot Bio, which you mentioned is right there on the seed and on the roots, this can help us ensure that we have nitrogen when that crop needs it the most.
So with the nitrogen being applied right on the seed and there at the roots, we know why that's so important for uptake and just getting the nitrogen available for the plant because it's right there. I mean, it makes perfect sense. but is it also then a benefit for that resiliency throughout the season because it's just so available right there at the source?
Yeah, absolutely. So despite all this wet weather, growers that are using Pivot Bio's microbial nitrogen, incorporating that nitrogen source into that diversified nitrogen plan, are seeing healthier plants across the entire growing season. So starting early in the season, growers with Pivot Bio microbial nitrogen had plants that had increased vigor, so larger root systems with more above ground biomass from emergence into those early vegetative growth stages. And then moving into the middle vegetative growth stages, which we know is when corn takes up a majority of its nitrogen from about V6 to tasseling, we saw that plants treated with Pivot Bio had increased chlorophyll or more nitrogen in the plant and increased below and above ground biomass. And then finally, now that areas of the country are moving into tasseling, growers using Pivot Bio are seeing more uniform tasseling and ears with less tip back when we're using that microbial nitrogen source that has been there at the right time and the right place, providing nitrogen over the growing season.
So is this going to be a good lesson then for just next year and potentially a story that you can tell farmers to say, hey, look back to last year when things were so wet, Pivot Bio was still able to deliver the nitrogen to the plants that you needed throughout the growing season?
Absolutely, I think so. So it's like I said, it's all coming down to the right time and the right place. And Pivot Bio's nitrogen is in the right place. It's directly on the seed and then directly on the root. So it's available for crop uptake, regardless of the weather extremes that we're seeing. And it's also available at the right time. So when the crop needs it the most during those middle vegetative growth stages, when it's taking up the majority of its nitrogen. So Pivot Bio nitrogen is a foundational part of applying the right source of nitrogen at the right rate, at the right time, and the right place. So the 4 R's.
Clayton, I know that Pivot Bio is always engaged in research and getting that data to, back up the products of Pivot Bio. Has that research just continued this season? Have you still been getting out in the field and getting that actionable data that you can pass on to farmers and show these results that you've been talking about?
Yes, we have. That's something we've done really well the last 4 growing seasons, actually. We have a team of professional agronomists across the United States that are visiting with Pivot Bio growers on farm, collecting data, really documenting these in-season observations that we're seeing from emergence all the way through harvest. Taking that data and then sharing it back to the grower and really talking through what we're seeing every single season. This year so far, we've already conducted hundreds of field visits with growers across the United States that are using Pivot Bio microbial nitrogen.
Here at our network, as we switch gears a little bit, want to talk to you about farm progress. And here at our network, we're selfishly very happy to have the show returning to Boone this year. And of course, I know that Pivot Bio is always involved at the Farm Progress Show. What are you looking forward to for this year's show, and what will you have in store?
Yeah, Pivot Bio is really excited about Farm Progress Show this year, and we've got some fun plans. And like you just mentioned, fun fact, Pivot Bio has a customer success center just down the road from Boone in Ames, Iowa. So we love it when Farm Progress is in Boone. This year, Pivot Bio, we have a lot of great giveaways. We're going to have air-conditioned space where we have snacks and popcorn for all of our visitors. And of course, we're going to have a lot of really cool opportunities for all of our guests and visitors to learn about Pivot Bio microbial nitrogen solutions. I'm also pretty excited. We're going to have a few members of the Iowa State women's basketball team that are going to be special guests at our booth this year. So I'd encourage everyone to stop by and follow Pivot Bio on our social media channels so that you can get the newest updates on Farm Progress Show and all of our other events.
And Clayton, for you specifically, yes, it's one thing to do an interview, for example, or talk about a product that gets passed along through multimedia channels. But when you get that chance to interact with farmers face-to-face in an event like Farm Progress Show, does it go even just that little bit extra, that extra mile with the farmer?
Oh my goodness, I think that truly is the differentiator. Being able to stand and talk face-to-face and go into all the details on things like microbial nitrogen, from the science to what we're seeing in the field to how it's performing across the country. I think that real face-to-face conversational interaction is just so much fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
Get a chance for those growers to ask those follow-up questions there when they're in person. So we encourage everyone to check out Pivot Bio at Farm Progress Show. Clayton, is there anything else you'd like to let our viewers, our listeners here in the state of Iowa know about when it comes to what Pivot Bio is working on, or just what you're excited about this growing season?
Sure. I would just say, I really am excited about Pivot Bio's microbial nitrogen helping growers this season when we've seen such extreme weather events, by having nitrogen that's there at the right time and in the right place. So having a microbial nitrogen solution that, when we incorporate it into a diversified nitrogen management plan, it's helping us increase our crops' resilience to extreme weather, and it's helping us increase our yield potential at the end of the year.
He is Clayton Nevins with Pivot Bio. Clayton, we thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the show today. And best of luck at the Farm Progress Show. Have fun, and best of luck with the rest of the growing season. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you to Clayton Nevins of Pivot Bio for joining today's show. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on YouTube. Check out the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network page. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe. Click on the notification icon as well, as that will let you know whenever we have any new video content available for you. Also, don't forget our free morning, midday, and closing market podcast, which are available wherever you find your favorite podcast at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. Also, don't forget to check out our daily Iowa Ag Matters podcast. Also, you can follow us on social media at X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Quentin Slater, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.